Hey guys, Robbie Falk here, live as I'm recording this. I guess it's not live, I don't know why I said that. From Humphrey Coliseum, as Mississippi State just finished off Bethune-Cookman. 85-62 was the final score here. Final non-conference game of the season for Mississippi State as they advance, I believe, to 11-2 on the season. Solid non-conference portion of the schedule for the Bulldogs. Had a tough loss in there at Georgia Tech, and then a really bad loss on the resume against Southern. But the Bulldogs have bounced back, and now they're at full strength. For the first time this season, State has every player available health-wise that's going to be available this season at their disposal. Tolu Smith made his debut this year on the court today and had a great ball game. I thought he looked fantastic in there. 16 points, I think 9 rebounds, nearly had a double-double in 19 minutes of play. So they didn't really push him that hard, but when he was in there, he was super productive. I don't think he missed a shot from the field and really had a great day. Looked like a guy that is not rusty at all. And this is exactly what you wanted out of Tolu Smith, is to get a game under his belt to kind of knock off a little bit of rust. Probably still going to be a little rusty in the first few conference ball games, but you actually get yourself set in a much better position now that you've allowed him to play a non-conference game. He's got that first game out of the way. It was a really productive game, and we don't expect to see him at full strength right away as conference play begins next week. But you got to think this game was huge in building the confidence back, getting his physicality back, because it's a little different when you don't play basketball for a while and you're not used to banging around in the post with players for nearly a year now, and all of a sudden you're out there and you're having to go up and down the court, you're having to fight for position in the post. It takes a little bit of time, and you get a chance this first ball game to kind of knock a little bit of that rust off. I think he's going to be close to 100% when he goes to South Carolina next week. So I thought he was excellent. Mississippi State had a really good game, I thought, from Trey Fort and Josh Hubbard. It's really important to get those two guys back on track from a shooting perspective. And Hubbard has not been really off for a while now. He didn't have super productive last 2 ball games, but he got back in the groove, had a couple of really nice step-back three-point shots. Trey Fort hit, I think, 3 three-pointers in the ball game as well. So it was great to see those guys getting back in action, and you finally have a team that is basically its finished product at this point from a roster standpoint. You have everybody available. You're starting to see roles kind of take shape, because now you have to figure out what to do with Jimmy Bell. He was so good in the non-conference portion. He started today, but that's going to diminish. You're going to see Tolu Smith pushed back into the starting lineup. And so how does he adjust to that role? I think he's going to adjust really well. I think State has it figured out what they plan to do here. Tolu Smith is going to get most of the minutes there at center, but anytime he gets in foul trouble, anytime that he needs a rest, State has not been in this position from, post-play perspective in quite some time. You have a guy that's been, in there in the foxhole with you at center for the first 11, 12 games of the season, and has been really, really good. He was SEC Player of the Week last week, was Jimmy Bell. So, you're talking about one of the best backup post players in the SEC at your disposal. State is in a great spot there in the post. You're starting to see Keyshawn Murphy coming to his own. Now you can utilize him a little more as a stretch 4 type player, and State's looking really good there in post. And I think the guards are starting to really come together as well. Shaq Moore had some really good moments today. Rams Davis has been solid since he came back from his injury early on in the season. I think DJ Jeffries continues to play really good defense. Cam Matthews just does everything. So you're starting to see players really establish their roles. Guys are playing as a team. I like where this team sits now coming into SEC play. Hearing from Chris Jans post-game, one player that wasn't available today, and we talked about State's roster seems pretty set. I think at this point it's pretty safe to say you can't count on Andrew Taylor to be a huge part of this team moving forward. Wasn't with the team again on Saturday, and Chris Jan said it's a personal matter. He's not currently with the team. So I just don't know if you can count on him moving forward. And I don't know if he's going to be a part of this team or what's going to happen with him, but I just don't see him being a major part of this program even if he does return. So I think you just kind of have to look at the team where it is right now and say that's what you're going to roll with. And I think State's in good position. And that was a guy when he was taken from Marshall that everybody felt was going to be a massive addition to this team, and just hasn't worked out. And I can't tell you why it hasn't worked out, but State's just having to figure it out without him. And I think the emergence of Josh Hubbard has really helped. He's just been fantastic as a true freshman, a guy that's just really not common from a mindset perspective and the things that he does mentally, how he approaches the game and things like that, and what he does on the court. I mean, there just hasn't been very many freshmen like that at Mississippi State. I think they're in good hands there with what he does. So, like what State's doing, you have a really good first part of this conference schedule that's going to test you. And going on the road to South Carolina team that's much better this year. I think they're 12-1 at this point. That's not going to be an easy ball game next week. I think at 11 a.m. That's going to be a tough matchup for Mississippi State, but it's a good start to the SEC schedule. You got Tennessee coming up. You got Alabama. I think Kentucky early in the conference slate. So this is going to test Mississippi State's will early. You got to get off to a much better start than you did last year. And non-conference play was really good last year. It set you up, it gave you a little bit of cushion. State's behind the 8 ball a little bit going in, but their net's still in a good spot. But that loss to Southern's going to kind of follow them the rest of the year. You do get a chance at the end of the year when the committee's looking at your schedule to say, well, no Tolu Smith. But the only way that really helps you is if you build up some confidence and some wins in conference play where they see just how big of a difference that Tolu Smith was for this team. And, obviously I think that he's going to be a huge difference. When the team just looked a little different today with him out there, they had much more confidence from three-point range when you got a guy right there that can kind of gobble up some missed shots. I think it just changes everything for this team. And also their ability to make shots on the flip side of that. They're able to make shots a little bit more, 44%, I think, today from three-point range. That changes the dynamic of this team. It takes a lot of pressure on your post play. It takes a lot of pressure off of that, and now all of a sudden you have some guys that can knock down some shots that you didn't last year. So I'm super intrigued to see what this team looks like in conference play compared to last season when you were having to muddy up ball games, hope that your defense kind of kept you in it, and can you stay in the 60s and the 50s. This team can score 70 plus pretty routinely. So if they can get hot in some games and you can really take some pressure off of Tolu, I think this is a dangerous team. So that they obviously have a chance now in conference play to show it. And the thing about the Southern loss and the Georgia Tech loss, if you take care of business in conference play, those games aren't going to matter nearly as much as we think right now, because your net opportunities are going to only increase. And getting those wins, getting road wins against some of these SEC teams like they did last year against Arkansas, those are going to be huge for Mississippi State, and it kind of eliminates those losses. That might hurt you down the line as far as your seeding is concerned, but if you take care of business in conference play, everything's ahead of you. That's the good thing about turning the calendar now, is all these opportunities are ahead of you, and Mississippi State has a team that's capable of making a run. So I'm really intrigued to see this team. I think it's worked out really well for Tolu Smith to come back right now as opposed to mid-January, which was the initial prognosis. To get him back before conference play, I think, is just monumental for this team to kind of get its continuity together and everybody's role established as they get into SEC play. So, really fun season, I think, ahead for Mississippi State men's basketball. For the women, they also finished off a conference or non-conference play with 2 losses. They lost back-to-back games against UT Chattanooga and Miami. That was about half a month ago or whatever it was. Mississippi State was, coincidentally, they also had their star center out in those losses. Jessica Carter was out in those 2 games, also Aaron Barnum. So State was actually missing 2 post players in those ball games when they lost to Miami and UT Chattanooga. I think they're still in good shape from an NCAA resume standpoint, but same thing, everything's in front of them. They're going to have to win games in conference play, and it's going to be tough. They're playing a Vanderbilt team next week that is significantly better. Shay Ralph, that was at UConn, was an assistant with Gino Auriemma for many years. She has really turned that program around quickly, and they're going to be tough. They're coming into the hump next week on Thursday, I think. Thursday night, I think, at 6:30 here at the hump, State and Vanderbilt, and that's going to be a difficult ball game. Then you got to go on the road to play South Carolina. You got to go on the road again after that. I forget who they play and they might play at home against Ole Miss. I know they play Ole Miss coming up. So both these teams are going to be really tested early on in SEC play. And we'll find out a lot about these teams early, I think, and if they are ready for this grind. LSU's coming to the hump for the women. So just some, I think, exciting moments ahead, and this fan base needs some excitement. You know, football was such a struggle. Baseball was a struggle. They're kind of dying for some excitement here. And I thought 2 really good crowds in a row with the women on Friday and the men today. I thought 2 really good crowds for a non-conference game after Christmas, around New Year's. Just a really excited fan base, I think, for basketball, whether it be for the women or the men. And I think you got 2 really good teams here, 2 teams that have the potential, but can they realize it? It's at their disposal now. They have to go take it, and we'll see if they're able to do that. All right, guys, I hope you have a great New Year and a New Year's Eve. Have a safe New Year's Eve, of course. Got a little bit of news coming on the YouTube channel tonight, and so stay tuned for that this evening if you're still up before the new year kind of welcomes you. I got some news for you. So I've already announced on the board, if you guys have been keeping up over there on 24/7, today is my last day at 247 after nearly a decade there, and I appreciate everything that they did for me and the opportunities that they gave me, but I got a new endeavor coming, and I'll have that announcement coming up tonight. So make sure that you're sticking around social media and YouTube for some thoughts on that. Appreciate you guys. Happy New Year. We'll catch you down the road.